IMF in Washington, and then finance minister back home. Goodall Edward Gondwe is our legend today. We found him at his retirement home in Lilongwe.
I was born on the 1st December 1936, makes me quite old, at Livingstonia, in the Livingstonia Hospital. My mother tells me I was born at 7:30 on a Tuesday.
Okay.
So those are the details that I have. My father was a teacher, and he taught, at that time he was teaching at Livingstonia, and then very shortly after he was transferred to Ekwendeni. But he left us at our village, went to Ekwendeni to teach. We joined him there in 1939, shortly before the war started. And I lived in Ekwendeni for the next 11 years, which means that I did my first part of primary school at Ekwendeni. I remember when we started school, we didn't have notebooks, we didn't have slates. We learned how to write on the ground. We were taught how to make lines, and you were taught to write on the sand. So I read my alphabet on the sand.
That's quite interesting.
About 1940, yes. We were taught, and then after that, I went to a school, a class where we were given slates.
Okay.
And after about a year or two, we were given notebooks. And also we were given books to read. I first wore a shoe when I was about 12 or so. That was in standard 3. I was in standard 3 at the time, I remember. What I remember is that the shoe that he gave me was only left-handed, too. So it was very painful. We had to tear a bit of it so that one of my toes could go out as I walked, because it was painful. The thing that I remember very clearly is that we got to Estonia at about 7:30. We were just on top of a hill, and I saw at that time a lot of lights at 7:30, and I heard my sister, who was at Estonia before. I was asking her, what is that? She said, Magesi. And I didn't know anything about Magesi at the time. I went when we went to Estonia, we found, although they had running water there, it was that early, and that too was quite a new experience for me. I stayed in Estonia for 3 years, up to the time when I was going to secondary school.
So when did you go to secondary school?
I went to secondary school, I think that must have been 1951, 52.
Which secondary school is that?
Blunder Secondary School.
Okay.
There were only 2 secondary schools at the time. Blunder Secondary School and Zomba.
Okay.
Yes. Only about 23 of us in the whole country were chosen to go to Blunder Secondary School. I think the same number went to Zomba Secondary School. So not more than 40 something went to school in that during that year in Malawi.
What was your experience like?
Well, at Blunder Secondary School, I was saying that I saw first was to see roads that were black, and I was asking my cousin who had been there before. I said, "Why are the roads in Blunder black?" And he said, "Oh, that's tarmac." I said, "What is tarmac?" And he explained to me. That was quite an experience for me. I was there that's where I met a lot of my colleagues. I remember Professor Chimpamba, we met there. at Blandesholm School. Ronald Nkomba was Blandesholm School. There was a very bright young man called Dr. Chitimba, now Dr. Chitimba, there, and Fair Chuvumbo, very, very bright. I am remembering this because in the end, we were the 5 of us who passed school certificate with distinctions.
Really?
School distinctions, yes.
Yeah.
5 of us. It was the best class that had passed through Blandesholm School because Chitimba had the best results. I think he had 9 points. I was not very bright, but these people were extremely bright. Nkomba was very good at English. In fact, he had a 1 in English. So we had some very bright people at Blandesholm School. Our teacher was Mr. Pike. I remember when I misbehaved, he slapped me, and I was very proud that I was slapped by a European. To me, that was quite something. From there, we went to Denza.
Okay, that was in
At
Form
that time,
what?
the government had decided that we had to have higher school certificate.
Okay.
To go to university in Rhodesia, which the Federation had just started university, you had to have higher school certificate. So we had to have one at Denza. Before, they used to go to Goromozi in southern Rhodesia or northern Rhodesia in Munali. But we started our own primary school, higher school certificate in Denza. There were about 20 of us chosen. Most of them were from Denza and Blandesholm School. 3 came from Zomba Secondary School. I remember there was John Chipangwi. There was now he's Professor Louis Muowo, and a man called Bachiri from Reforma. I think they ended that up in Budali. And we were there for 2 years. The emergency, state of emergency, caught us there. When Dr. Banda was arriving in the country in 1958, we were there at Denza School. The thing that something new I learned at Denza, there were quite a lot of things. One was that they started giving us these new toilets where you had to flush and so forth. I remember to do that, they closed the school and they taught us all how to use it. I remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting time. In Form 6, at Blandesholm School, in Form 1, I forgot that, I met Dr. John Tembo, Honorable John Tembo.
Okay.
He was my first prefect at Blandesholm School. We found him there. He was just about to sit for his examinations, school certificate. Tembo was to me very interesting because he was a very good athlete. He used to run very, very fast. He was a little bit richer than most of us. He used to dress extremely well. Those things stuck in my mind about Tembo.
After Form 6, where did you go?
Well, after Form 6, I passed so Form 6, not very well, but I passed anyway. And I was selected to go to Salisbury, University of Rhodesia and Nyasaland that time. I was selected to go and do agriculture. And for 1 year I did agriculture. The next year I decided I had enough of it. But before I could finish my university degree there, it was decided that all Malawians should leave the University of Rhodesia and Nyasaland because it was a federal university. So I was sent to Makerere. I went to Makerere, and instead of doing agriculture, I did economics instead.
Why the change?
Well, I must say that as I kept on studying agriculture, I did think I could be a good farmer. And It was also a very hard degree because you had to do economics, you had to do agriculture, you had to do mechanics, and a number of things. And I decided I'm not cut out for it. So when Dr. Banda sent me to Makerere, I was very happy because I changed. I went into economics. Immediately I finished, he told that I had to come back here to help start the Reserve Bank of Malawi. So I was one of the first people to join as a staff of the Reserve Bank of Malawi. I remember the first job they gave me was that I was a security guard, going on top of the lorry, looking after currency from the railway line to the Reserve Bank of Malawi inside Plata. And in no time at all, I was promoted in 1970 to be the first general manager of the Reserve Bank of Malawi as a Malawian.
Congratulations.
That was the job next to the governor. The governor was a white man.
Okay.
From the Bank of England. That 1970, I was then asked to go to join the civil service as an undersecretary in the Treasury. I think they were those are the times when the Europeans were going out of their jobs. And I joined the Treasury in 1970. In 1971, I think, 71 years, I was promoted as secretary to the Treasury at a very early age. Now looking back, I wonder why they did that, because quite frankly, the job at Treasury, Secretary of Treasury is a very difficult job.
Yeah.
Up to about 1973, then they decided that I should go to the African Development Bank as an executive director. I was there from 73 to 76, I think, yes. I was then made one of the vice presidents of the bank. A year or two after, I was chosen as the senior vice president. I was the president on top, and I was the next person higher up. That lasted up to 1979, when the president had to leave, and I took over as president of the African Development Bank. That was an important job because it meant that from then onwards, I dealt with heads of state in Africa. I dealt with ministers of finance, so I knew a lot about Africa at the time. In 1980, they chose another president to take over from me. It was somebody from Zambia. I think he died now, Mr. Mungomba. And I went to the IMF. There I stayed at the IMF for 23 years. In 1997 or so, I was made the head of the African director for the African department, which means that I was responsible for the whole of Africa as far as the IMF was concerned. That was a very, very responsible job.
Yeah.
And looking back, I wonder how I did it at all.
Yeah, how challenging was it?
Very challenging because I remember when the IMF had problems with Nigeria, I had to go to fix it. We had problems in Zambia, I had to go to fix it. We had a problem in some French countries. I think that was in Senegal. I had to go and fix it. In Kenya, I went there and so forth. So that was an extremely challenging job. I came here when Dr. Banda was still president, I think at the time. It was very interesting to talk to my president.
You joining politics, what made you?
Well, it's by misfortune, if I may say so. When in the IMF, when you became 65, and I was 65, I think in 2001, I had to leave. I had to retire. When I retired, the World Bank asked me if I could come here as an advisor to the president of Malawi. That was Dr. Muluzi at the time. And Dr. Muluzi agreed. So I came here first as an advisor to the president in economic matters. I stayed here up to 2004 with him. And I think Dr. Muluzi made my work very easy because he was very kind to me. Yeah, very kind to me. He made me, I used to attend his cabinet every time. So I was almost treated like a minister at the time by him. In 2004, just before in the elections, being whom I knew extremely well, a good friend of mine, was made Minister of Economic Planning, and he was chosen by Mr. Muluzi to be the candidate for UDF, presidential candidate. And he called me aside and said, look, if I do win, would you like to join me? So I said, I will join any time.
Now that you've retired, what are you doing?
Now that I have retired, I have decided that I better put into practice what I used to tell other people to do. So you find me here in Lilongwe, but most of the times I'll be in my village. I have cattle. I am rearing cattle. I have more than 100 now, and I'm looking after them. I have there's a gentleman who's teaching me how to look after fish, so I am growing fish as well. And I have some maize, not so much, but a lot of peas. I have that. So I'm doing what I should have been doing if I didn't go to school. I'm working very hard. My problem now is that I'm not finding markets to sell my things. But if I had the markets, I think I would do extremely well. Yeah.
So during your free time, as you are relaxing, what do you like doing?
Well, I was brought up badly. Some of the things that I like doing, a number of people don't like that. I am very fond of classical music. So you ask me, what do I do? I have a laptop and I go into YouTube and play a lot of my classical music. That takes. And then I also I like history, so I tune to historical. I now know a lot about each one of the African countries, how they became independent, and what problem they had so far. So I'm doing that now. But I am completely divorced from political matters. I think I had my chance to do things. I leave it to other people now to take up and do their own piece of work.
You've been a public figure for a long time, and we've never seen Mrs. Gondwe.
You saw her over there. Yeah. Well, she's very introspective. She doesn't. She's not a public figure. She doesn't go on the podium. He doesn't do that. She doesn't go to my office. She even in Washington, she never did that. But she comes from Karonga. She was a chancellor at the university. Graduated in 1970, I think 71. And we have been together now for about 40 years. With 3 children, but they're big people now. They're on their own. So we're having a good retirement, I must say. And I would like to say that I'm looking forward to our country doing very well. One of the worst things I'm sure you're going to give me last word to you. The worst things that we do in Malawi is that we always think that we are the worst country in the world. We are not. During the time when I was a civil servant, we were very proud people. We were the poorest, but we did not recognize that. And we thought we were the best in at this part of Africa. I remember the Minister of Tanzania's Finance came to me if I could draft his speech in Washington. Because people looked up to us. Mm-hmm. And you will never grow if all that you do is to say we are bad, we are the most corrupt country in the world. It's not true. Mm. Every country you read about, even the United States, they're complaining about corruption and so on. I'm not saying we should not do something about it. I think we should stop it. And where we can eradicate it, we should do that. But we should not think that we're the worst country in the world. It's not true. Mm-hmm. You have to be in MBC thinking that you are better than your opposite number in Tanzania. It's literally, I thought you were the president of Tanzania. But you have to be. We are not proud of the fact that this is so. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things in Malawi that are being done better than other countries. We should say so. But we are teaching our children to think that they are not in a position to do anything good. Well, they will grow up believing so, and they will not feel challenged. Because if you think you are bad, there's no reason why you should work hard to be the best, because you are always bad. Mm-hmm. So, MBC, please, you are our torch bearer. Do not encourage people to think that they are the worst in the world, because they are not. We had a president in Zambia for Malawi. We started politics in South Africa. I mean, ANC was started by Malawian in 1912. We started politics in South Rhodesia. So we're not bad. Mm-hmm. I myself was the head of the African Development Bank. You don't grow up a man who is going to be the head of that African bank if you are the worst in the world. We must be proud of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We are doing a good job. Some of the people that we have had here, I can mention names. John Brown Chipamba, for example. Very few people could have got a man like him. John Chipangwe. Very few people have men like him. John Tembo. Very few. Aleke Banda, one of the brightest stars in politics in Africa, have grown up here. So why are we saying that we are we're bad? It reminds me of a story of an old woman in Natal who said, but I can't do anything, I am blind and this and that and so forth. But people give me something. We're always begging. One of the worst things that we are doing now is that every other person that you see begs. We should not encourage that. I know that we are poor people, but let's work. Each one of us should be proud of what they can produce and produce it. You will never grow up if all you do is to say, we beg and so forth. I'm very pleased by the way the Minister of Health is handling COVID, by the way. We do it on our own. And it's one of the best in Africa. It has been pronounced that. It's the best program in Africa. So let's do our best. Sorry, I wandered too much. This is a subject I am very passionately for. I think that Malawi should stand up tall. Where we're doing badly, we must do well. We should recognize, we should point out. But where we're doing well, also we should say it. And this is this was the strength of Bingu. Bingu stood up and spoke for the country where we did well. He shouted to people to say we are the best in Africa now when we had 9% growth. Other people just be sitting like that. No, you say it.
Dr. Gondwe, thank you.
I'm not doctor. I am just a simple mister. I'd like the public to know. I was just given this...
the title.
I forget the university. I think a number of 3 universities have given me this doctorate. But this has just been given. I didn't study for it.
Okay.
So don't call me doctor. I'm just Goodall Gondwe. Mr. Goodall Gondwe. If you want to call me Mr.
Thank you very much for coming into...
You can call me honorable.
Honorable. For joining us into Tracking the Legends. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.